The two most important cinematic achievements of the 1990s were Schindler's List and Mystery Men, starring Ben Stiller. And there's one scene in particular where Ben Stiller's Mr. Furious is angry with his incompetent pseudo-superhero teammates. Then he's yelling at them for not taking things seriously enough. Then as they go out the door, he's like, I thought you guys were like this superhero and that superhero, but not really. Actually, you're lazy boy. And they're like walking away, and he's trying to think of how to finish the insult. And then as they leave, he's like, then the recliner. And he just thought of it just a tiny bit too late. Lazy boy in the recliner, which actually is, let's be honest here, that's a pretty good insult. It's just a pretty good insult, a teeny tiny bit too late. And how many times have we all been there? Am I right? You know exactly the thing you should have said, and the only way you get to live out the catharsis of having actually said it is to tell other people about the exchange where the other person was a complete nincompoop, and you actually, in this version of storytelling reality, did say the brilliant thing that you thought of, but only shouted at the door after the person was already gone, after it would have totally worked. You just leave out that little chronological detail, and you get to seem awesome. But dialogue that pops is cathartic. When everybody's in the moment and they actually know exactly what to do and they don't think of it after and they actually say it to the other person, you're like, you actually said that? And this time it's actually true. It's like, yeah, that's what was actually said. Whoa! That's exactly the kind of exchange that we get in Matthew chapter 21, starting in verse 23, when the religious leaders swoop back in for round 2. The day before, they got mad at Jesus because he cleared the temple, and the kids were real excited, and they were saying, Hosanna to the Son of David. And then the religious leaders got mad, and they're like, you're going to do something about the kids saying this stuff? You're going to straighten that out? Can we get you on record saying that that is wrong and they're being idiots? And Jesus is like, yeah, how about here's a little dose of Bible from, maybe you've heard of them, the Psalms. And he says, from the lips of children and infants, you have ordained praise. And I guess that means, like, I'm just going to let him keep saying things because they're exactly right. And then he rolls into town and gets to the temple courts. And exactly at that moment, the religious leaders are like, oh, here he comes, boys. This is what we were made for. We had 24 hours, and they're like probably slapping each other and stuff and shaking and getting ready like Dwight Schrute before a sales call. And then verse 23, it says, Jesus entered the temple courts, and while he was teaching, the chief priests and the elders of the people came to him. By what authority are you doing these things? They asked. And who gave you this authority? And then I decided that's how their voice sounds in this story. I should have made it more nasal. Let me do it again. By what authority do you do these things? And who gave you this authority? That was better. But as much fun as it is to make fun of these guys, and don't get me wrong, it is fun and very satisfying to make fun of these guys, this is a pretty clever move. They had a good brainstorm session the night before because they're putting Jesus in a terrible spot. I mean, if he says, well, by my own authority, then they can say blasphemy. And if he says, well, it's by the authority of God, then they can say blasphemy. And if he says, well, I'm the son of David, or I'm the son of God, or didn't you hear about my baptism? I mean, you were there, Terry, Carl, Dave. I saw all of you guys out there. I mean, God the Father was there. Then the Holy Spirit was there. The dove, you remember the dove part, guys? Like all of that. They can still call blasphemy on that. The game plan is super obvious. It's the same one as yesterday. It's just a little different angle on it. They're trying to get him to say something that puts him in a place where they can feign moral, religious outrage and get just enough of the squishy middle idiots that are ultimately the ones who, out of their fear and weakness, decide pretty much every policy matter in any society ever. You can get enough of the squishy middle weak people to play along and be useful idiots, then you can just have Jesus crucified on the grounds of blasphemy, even though the people who ultimately tip the scales in favor of that really don't care about any of those things. I would just like to please go home for dinner now and please get along and please quit yelling at me for my opinion about things. And so they throw this question out, and looks like Jesus is going to be over a barrel here. He's met his match. Verse 24, Jesus replied, well, I'll also ask you one question. If you answer me, I'll tell you by what authority I'm doing these things. John's baptism, where did it come from? Was it from heaven or was it from men? Look at what he did. This is the clever wit in the moment right here. He didn't think of this later and then run back over and be like, wait, I got a different thing. Pretend I didn't say the thing I said. By what authority did John do the baptizing? Boom, gotcha, checkmate. No, he just had this ready to go Because as we've seen throughout the book of Matthew, he just knows what people are thinking. He knows their angle. He anticipates how they're going to weasel. It's like if you're not in football, this will be fine. But if you are, this will make a lot of sense. It's like a good quarterback doing his pre-snap reads at the line of scrimmage where he looks at the defense. He's like, all right, you're there. You're standing there, but that's a lie. As soon as I go to snap the ball, you're going to move right over there. And yeah, I see exactly what kind of coverage this is. I can see what's going to be open, and I know how to exploit this. Go. That kind of genius is very, very rare. Only a few people have it in the entire world of football, and only one person seems to have it in the world of first century religion. Jesus just always knows what to do and always knows what to say. Well, remember just a minute ago, I was like, oh, they got him over a barrel because if he does this or this or this, it's all blasphemy. And then it's by his own words, he is condemned. But now he just flips it around to them. It's like, cool, okay, I think I see what you're doing. I'm willing to play ball. Just riddle me this. Where did John get that authority from? Now, think about the situation before you read any further in the Bible here. What does that do to them? If they're like, John, he didn't have any authority at all. He was an idiot and he got what he deserved with the whole beheading thing. Am I right? Well, the people are going to find out they said that and they're going to be like, John is like the most meaningful thing that's happened in the religion you're in charge of since roughly forever. And I thought you guys were on board with it. I mean, you weren't complaining about him when he was causing more people to have restored religious fervor, which meant more money for you guys as more religious energy was expended here at the temple. I mean, I don't know. You guys are frauds. That's not going to work for them. But if they're like, oh, well, obviously, as all these good people who are here celebrating this holy time of year know, as we've said all along, this John was different and unconventional. And surely it's been made abundantly clear that he's from God. If they say that, then Jesus is going to be like, well, why didn't you just go with what he said then about me? Because was that part not from God? He just takes the barrel, removes it from under himself, and firmly affixes it underneath them. And they come to the exact same conclusion here. This is awesome. They discussed it among themselves. So I love the way they're like, just a second, real quick. Just stay there. We're going to be right back. Okay, that was actually pretty good. I didn't think he was going to do that. If we say from heaven is where John got his authority, then he's going to ask, then why didn't you believe him? Yeah, but if we say from men, we're afraid of the people, for they all hold that John was a prophet. And that was like literally from the Bible, all of that stuff right there. Like they go off and they have this little huddle and they realize exactly what any sane social interpreter can see from the situation. You guys are in trouble. He did that in like one sentence. It's like 2 question marks and he completely flipped the whole thing. So they come back out of their little huddle and they walk over and they answer Jesus. So they answered Jesus, "We do not know." And it reminds me of the 2 little worm things, the little demon monster things that float around and help out Hades in Disney's Hercules. And Hades is yelling at them about stuff. And then at some point they're trying to seem competent and act like they're totally rolling with Hades' train of thought. But then they're like, we do not know. It's the exact same energy going on here. And then Jesus says to them, okay, well, neither will I tell you by what authority I'm doing these things. And that's the end of the anecdote. Close scene. We are done here. They thought they had this unbeatable logical trap. Like, we got all of us and we all went to college so many times and we have all these degrees and great outfits. Then he's a hobo from an uneducated bumpkin part of the world and he's on our turf and everyone's so impressed with us and they have religious leader trading cards at the kids swap, or at least they did until yesterday when they all started liking him. We are going to completely dominate this guy. We're going to rock his world and pressure him, and he's just completely unfazed. Like, okay, that seems like a reasonable question. Here's another reasonable question. What are you guys going to do with that? Nothing. Fold like a house of cards. We're so sorry. Bye. And then they just scurry off back into who knows what holes they live in to work on whatever their next plan is going to be. This is fun. I like this particular narrative. I just think it's awesome to see the hero of the story completely dominate and think on his feet in a way that I can't. And when you think about Jesus, and why he's credible, your brain goes right to the miracles, the breaking laws of time and space, and the brilliant teachings and the sweeping stories and the parables, and all that stuff's incredible. But also, if you're something of a student of social dynamics and the little chess moves that everybody's making all day long, and you see something like this and you've been on planet Earth for a while, you're like, dang, the longer I live, the more I appreciate how remarkable that little maneuver right there was. Thanks for breaking it down with me. Hey, thanks also to everybody who's reviewed the podcast lately. That is a gigantic help, and it continues to be a huge help. It's really simple. If we go through a patch where not really any ratings or reviews come in, I see fewer new people join the conversation. If you review it, I think even if you review it angry, it is incredible how there's always then this new influx of people who are new to the conversation. Also, if that's you, hey, welcome. Glad you're here. And so your ratings and reviews on any and all apps that you use, that's just gigantic. I understand. I'm asking you for a favor right through the front door. If you'd be willing to do that anywhere you can, that'd be rad. Thank you very, very super much. I'm Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast. Let's do this again soon.